Got a Photoshop question? Brought to you by the National Association of Photoshop Professionals, it's Ask Dave.
Peter Glynn asked an interesting question, that is, I have an iPhone photo, how do I upsize it without losing quality? Well, that's a challenge because whenever you make something larger artificially, Photoshop has to do something called interpolation, which is inventing pixels to fill in the spaces. So here's an iPhone photo I took in San Antonio, and this is the quality. It's 100%. That's the size. Let's just take a look at the image size. That's how big it is. Well, I could simply go to image size, and the key thing to do here is to choose bicubic smoother, best for enlargement. This is something that came out the last couple of versions of Photoshop that's improved the quality of Photoshop. Now, before I do that, I should also add that in the past there was a theory that if you went to percent and did it 110% at a time over and over again, you'd get better results. Well, I've tried that recently, and there really is no difference as far as I can see in doing it. It just takes a lot longer. So instead, let's just reset this and make sure again it says bicubic smoother, best for enlargement. And let's say we wanted to just make the resolution higher, so go up to 300 pixels per inch. So going from 3.59 megabytes to 6.23 megabytes, a big jump. So let's click OK. It's going to do the figuring out, and then we look at it. It's not bad. I mean, it's not horrible. You know, there's still some detail there. Of course, the real test would be printing it, because you got to be, the whole reason for doing this kind of enlargement generally would be to print it. So don't get too caught up in what it looks like on the screen. Now, I hate to answer a question with recommending a third-party product that costs you some money, but if you find yourself doing this a lot, On1 Software has a product used to be called Genuine Fractals. Now it's called Perfect Resize, and it generally does a better job. It's pretty subtle, but it's got more options. Image size just says, here you go, I'll shoot up the image size. So Perfect Resize looks like this. It's got its own little interface. Now I'm just doing it as a standalone application, but it is also available as a plugin. And same kind of idea, you can come in here and say, I just want to make this 300 pixels per inch. But you can also go to different presets, so if you know a particular size that you want, things of that nature. But the other thing that makes a big difference here is there's all these other options about texture control. You can decide what kind of image you're working with. This is a low-res JPEG. I could also try switching it to landscape. Now, I haven't honestly gone through all of these options. Normally I've just said I need to make it much larger. One thing that is very nice, by the way, often a reason for people enlarging it greatly is to print it as a canvas wrap, where you have the canvas wrapping around the outside. This has a built-in option where you can decide, I want to have a thickness of X inches, and how do I want the wrap to be made around. So that's just kind of an added bonus. But let's actually apply that. Now the nice part is that when you're working in the interface, you can see very quickly the results. Then when you hit apply, as you see, it actually works now. It takes a little bit longer than image size does to create the final version. And once it's finished, I'm going to call it something else so I can distinguish it. I want to keep it JPEG high quality just so we're comparing. And then in Photoshop, let's open that and just see the comparison. We'll tile them side by side. Let's go to 100%. And let's look at the same area by going to match all, which means the second one will match the first one. And you see, it definitely looks to me like it's a little bit sharper. On some level, it almost looks a bit like there's some painting going on. Now keep in mind, I didn't do anything in Perfect Resize for sharpening or things like that. So again, let me stress here, I'm not suggesting that the only answer is to go out and buy a third-party plugin like Perfect Resize, because it's not. You can do it in image size, but if you find yourself having to do this a fair bit, that's where having a plugin can just give you a few more options. Is image size pretty good? Does it do a pretty good job when you're printing? Yeah, it does do a pretty good job. But again, if you want a few more options, you may want to take a look at least download a demo version of Perfect Resize to check that out. But that just gives you a couple of options for ways where you can dramatically enlarge a fairly low resolution image. If you have a quick question you'd like me to attempt to answer here on Ask Dave, you can, if you're a Twitter user, you can go to @DaveCross and send me your quick question that way, or right here on the Kelby TV website, you can look for the Contact tab, fill in the contact form, and once again, send me your question, and I'll do my very best to answer as many of them as I can. I'm Dave Cross. See you next time.